It's a very good morning to the Gelding and Gelding. We go to Flemington today, and only a 9-race card. So we're still on 9 races. We've dropped back from the 10. Is that the current winter schedule? Because I see that at another racetrack they haven't dropped back one; they've added one. What's going on with 11 races, Gelding? Talk to me about that. Talk to me. Anyway, good morning, Gelding.
Good morning, Professor. Good morning, listeners. Yep, I'll get the soapbox out early, as I texted you last night. How greedy do these race clubs want to be? Like, here we have 9 races now. We've added one. We've got an $80,000 race on a Saturday. Every other race minimum is worth $130 on a Saturday. Racing Victoria said we're increasing prize money for Saturday's races to be a minimum of $130,000. And yet here we are, we have a look at race 2, and it's a $80,000 benchmark 78, Professor. So I don't know what's going on. And then, well, you go to Sydney today. Have you ever heard of anything so ridiculous?
Gelding, they've already started running, haven't they? Almost.
Tell you what, we better finish so I can watch the first, Professor. A 10:30 start at Royal Randwick.
That's a long, Gelding, that's a long day at the races, 10:30 till what time's the last?
4:20, right,
Goodness.
Which is a good, nice early finish for that. It's supposed to be pissing down with rain up in Sydney. And here you are. Like, imagine if you had the runner in the first, Professor, and you lived an hour away from the track.
It's an early start, Gelding. Early start.
It's a very early start too for a day out, Professor. So and as we well know, Professor, having done some work in Sydney, it's not the easiest town to get around, is it?
No, although it is a little bit easier to get to Royal Randwick now from the CBD, now that they've got the trams running out there, Gelding. It is a bit of a journey, though.
Yes, Professor. A tram out to the races, eh? Anyway.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? But, I'm thinking of your grandmother. The Daily Double in Sydney, race 9 and 11. When she was running, there was only 8 races on the program.
Gelding, the traditional races for the Daily Double, 9 and 11.
Yeah.
Has that ever been the Daily Double before?
I always thought it used to be 6 and 8, but But anyway, it is what it is, Professor. These guys get paid a lot of money to run it, but geez, it just sounds like a lot of greed to me, doesn't it? Well, at least their prize money, I will give Sydney credit, Professor. I was thinking, okay, they're going to do what Melbourne does and just cut prize money out, but their minimum race is worth $120,000. They've got a midway and a highway worth $120,000. Then most of their races are worth $160,000, and they've got a couple of $200,000 races. So they're certainly putting up the prize money.
Well, tell me this, Gelding. When we had a 10-race card, race 2 was $80,000. They've dropped it back one race. Surely they can lift the prize money for race 2, given that there's one fewer races.
You're a logical man, Professor. When are you going to start running for committees, race committees?
No, thanks, Gelding.
Would you fit in?
No, I wouldn't, because I'd be voting to keep Sandown as a racecourse, not turn it into a housing lot.
Well, another ridiculous bloody money grab. Yeah.
All right, Gelding. As I said, 9-race card at Flemington today. The first at 11:50 a.m. The last's at 4:34. So home in time before it gets dark, hopefully. The track has been upgraded to a good 4. It was a soft 5 yesterday, Gelding. It's upgraded to a good 4 today. The rail's out 8 metres for the entire course. What are your 2 best bets for today, Gelding?
Professor, first one going very, very early. theory from today, winter racing, decided to go the good stables, Professor, and hopefully some good jockeys. Most of our better jockeys are racing in at Eagle Farm, but of course, Damien Lane stayed down in Melbourne. So I thought an early start for everyone today. Race 1, number 1, Pisces. It's a Godolphin horse, a Blue Army. You know, we like that. Damien Lane aboard. Horse has had 5 starts for 2 wins and 2/3. It's in the 2-year-old race at 11.50, Professor. So not as early as Sydney, but a time to get your skates on. The Blue Army's just starting to hit form, and you know my old theory with them, Professor, is they've got that many horses. They place them in the right races. So I like backing them. Damien Lane aboard. I think we can get away to a good start in race 1, number 1, Pisces.
Now, before you go on, Gelding, did you say that race 1 was a 2-year-old race?
It is a 2-year-old race, Professor.
I know a horse
I know
a horse that might have been able to get a start in that race.
We do have one that was entered in that race, Professor, but
might have been one that didn't accept for today, Gelding.
Yes, it didn't accept, and the trainers advised us he may be looking for a 1,400-metre race, Professor. So hopefully we can get a start. But I do notice the stable and our syndicate with Wally Dalziel do have another runner in the race, and one that won first up at Pakenham, Professor. So
maybe that one got priority, Gelding.
Might have got a nod, but the Hazes have got 2 horses in it, so there's no reason why you can't have multiple runners, Professor. But we'll leave it at that and just say that's racing. Were you dusting off the suit and tie for Flemington?
Well, Monday morning we were getting ready, and this was going to be a pre-recorded program, Gelding.
I do remember that discussion, Professor.
There was quite some excitement, as I recollect.
There certainly was indeed. I could see you strutting around that owner's bar and that at Flemington. So,
well, Gelding, I even went to the trouble of looking up what the owner's facilities were, and I was very impressed. I thought, we could make a meal of this.
Well, they do have nice sausage rolls there in the owner's bar, Professor.
Gelding, I tell you, that would be a train out to Flemington. There's no worries about that.
Oh yes. Yeah, we would have certainly done that, Professor, and it would have been quite a good day. But
well, we can hope
not to be.
Well, we just hope that in the future we do get to Flemington as owners.
Certainly hope so, Professor.
Yeah.
And we hope it may be the first week in November.
Well, that'd be very nice too, wouldn't it?
Yeah, Oaks Day. Be nice, wouldn't it? Anyway,
it would.
That's only another thought.
All right, Gelding, what else do you like today?
The second bet of the day, Professor, going on to race 4. Again, another favourite of mine, Kieran Marr, trained horse, Berkshire Breeze. This horse has had 13 starts for 3 wins, 5 seconds and 2/3, Professor. So 11 out of 13 starts it's been placed or better. 3 wins, you know. This is a horse by Master Craftsman, so a bit of a stayer. This is over 2,520, so lightly raced 5-year-old. Won its last race at Cranbourne by 3 lengths. Before that, ran second at Caulfield. Only beaten 1.3 lengths, Professor. So, look, I'm hoping this lovely grey horse can just, stride a little bit, stride well, and hopefully we can win for us race 4, horse 4, Berkeley Breeze. So, yeah, another overseas import for the Kieran Marr stable, so hopefully we can go well.
And Gelding, I thought the threat in that race might have been the Lane Waller combination of Quantum Cat.
Yes, that was the other one I was having a look at, Professor, but just like this one, it probably nice each way odds of 420, Professor.
No, quite happy with your selection, Gelding.
And you like Professor?
Yeah, I'm going early too, Gelding, certainly for the first selection anyway. Race 2, the Jan Crozer Plate, a benchmark 78 race for fillies and mares over 1,400 metres. I like in this race, Gelding, horse number 9, More Mum. That's what we need, More Mum.
More Mum?
Yep. Coming out of barrier 6, it's had 14 starts for 4 wins and 5 placings, Gelding, so a 29% win rate, 64% place rate. I like its last 4 starts, Gelding, 3 wins and a second, so you can't do much better than that. It's an equal class,
flying, isn't it?
Yeah, it's flying, Gelding. It's in equal class today. Ticks a lot of boxes, Gelding. It's won at the track. It's won over the distance. Got apprentice Jayla Kennedy claiming 3 kilos, so it's only starting with 54.5. It's only carrying that weight today. She had a win and a second at Caulfield last week, Gelding, so she's in pretty good form for the Metropolitan
She's in pretty good form as well.
For an apprentice, yes.
Yeah, this is the time of the year for apprentices, Professor.
I think so, Gelding, and you can get fixed odds at the moment, $5 and $2, so very good for each way punting. I think it'll start shorter than that, Gelding, so I'd probably say to punters, get on now while you can get the $5. I think it'll start around the $4 by the time we get to start time. Dan O'Sullivan is in very good form as the trainer, Gelding. He's got a 10% career win rate. Over the last 50, though, at 16%. So he's got winning form as well. Yes. So race 2, number 9, More Mum.
Beautiful.
And let's then have a look at race 8, the Pakenham Trophy, Gelding, a benchmark 84 over 1,400 metres. In this one, Gelding, I like a horse with a very difficult name to pronounce, number 20, Elu Yu.
Elu Yu. How would you come up with the name Elu Yu, Professor?
Well, Gelding, the sire is So You Think. So I would imagine that's where the U came from.
Yes.
And the dam is Allura. So they've used part of the dam's name and added U to it. So another one of those silly names, Gelding, hopefully doesn't go the way
of... Could it be Elu Think?
Elu, yeah, well, Elu Think, yes, it could have been that too.
Elu So?
Yes.
Why did they use the U, Professor?
What about You Think?
Yeah. Maybe I think.
Yeah, well, I think. There you go.
Yeah.
All right, Gelding, it's coming out of barrier 9. 6 starts for 2 wins and 4 placings, 33% win rate, 100% place rate. In a stronger class today, Gelding, but its last 4 starts, 2 wins and 2 seconds. So I'm very happy with the form there. It's won over the distance. It's 3rd up today, Gelding. It's 1/3 up previously, so it ticks a few boxes there. 4.5 kilos lighter than its last start, Gelding, so it's not carrying all that weight around. Damien Lane in the saddle. Gelding, what's happened to Damien Lane's form? He's got a 14% career win rate. He started the season off like a German band, 4% over his last 50.
How many seconds are in that, Professor? But look, when you have a look, he's leading the Jockeys Premiership by. He's got 76 wins, and the nearest to him's the very much informed Blake Shin on 61. So he's 15 in front of him, and third's Michael D, another very good jockey on 44. So yeah, you're talking 32 more wins than him. So yeah, it's saying his strike rate this year is 18%, Professor.
Yeah, well, certainly happy with him in the saddle, Gelding, and I'm predicting that if he gets up in the first and he gets up in this one, that 4% is going to rise very quickly. Scott Cameron's a trainer, Gelding, not a trainer that we talk about very often, and probably the reason for that is I did a bit of research. He's only got 4 horses at the moment.
4 horses. Oh, well, at least we got one good enough to start at Flemington, Professor.
He has, and Elu
Yu is better than some people I know, some trainers I know.
Well, some trainers, Gelding, have got horses that don't start.
Yes, Professor.
And Gelding, not only that, they travel all over the countryside and don't start.
Yes. Yes. Maybe go to sunny Queensland tomorrow, hey?
Oh, well, we'll see what happens tomorrow, Gelding.
We will indeed.
All right. So my two for today, Gelding, race 2, horse 9, More Mum, race 8, horse 20, Elu U. Now let's talk about the Professor's Parlay, Gelding. We slipped a little bit last week. I Wish I Win, a very good selection. It won. A very good selection. Geelong beat Richmond. Gelding, the Sydney Roosters. It was described on Monday morning as the worst loss they've had in a decade. Yep. They were leading 14-4 at halftime. I almost called you, Gelding, and say, listen, I'll go down and collect now. But unfortunately, the Sydney Roosters didn't realise that there was a second half to be played, and they got knocked over right at the end.
Well, Professor, what was the biggest surprise of the week? The Roosters getting beaten, or Pakistan being beaten by the USA in the cricket?
Geez, they'd be almost level, wouldn't they? They'd be vying for the number 1 spot.
Well, I suppose if it's Pakistani cricket, they'd be looking at whether players are purchasing new houses in the United Arab Emirates, and I wonder whether the same can be said about the Sydney Roosters, Professor.
Well, the US are 2 from 2, Gelding.
Yeah, I know.
So winning form's good form.
And what are the Roosters?
Well, we're not picking them, Gelding. They're in the black book. They're in the black book along with a couple of Premier League soccer teams.
Yes, and this week we're returning rugby league, Professor, or are we going Aussie rules?
No, we're going half and half, Gelding.
Oh, so we're going back to the rugby.
Yeah, we're going to dip in the rugby pool again.
Oh dear. Okay.
All right, Gelding. So the Professor's Parlay currently for this year, 11 wins from 21 starts. So 50. We're still at 52%. We're still above the 50% line, Gelding.
Oh, sorry, Professor.
That's all right, Gelding.
I would have said that any bet type that's running at 50% when you're picking a multi of 3, you're doing extremely well, Professor. I know you get down a bit on it, but and you want it higher, and we'll try and get it higher, but it's still doing a fantastic result at over 50%, Professor. I was going to tell you, every second bet we had, we collected. You'd be pretty happy.
Yeah, I'd be pretty happy with that, Gelding.
Yeah, so that's it. We're running better than that at the moment. So let's try and keep it going.
All right, Gelding. So this week's Professor's Parlay, we're going to Eagle Farm, race 8, horse number 4, Scarlet Oak, and perhaps you'd like to explain to the viewers why we believe that's the bet of the day.
Oh, Professor, Eagle Farm's been good for us so far with I Wish I Win last week. The Oaks is the main race. Queensland Oaks were 700,000. It's the main race anywhere today. Professor, I just think Scarlet Oak, trained by Chris Waller, to be ridden by James McDonald, who last week we couldn't find, Professor. He nipped up to Japan to win their main race up there on Roman Conti. So an international jockey, international class, McDonald. Chris Waller has multiple runners in this Oaks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 runners, Professor, of which McDonald would have had his choice of riding. So when he chooses that one out of a quarter, from probably picking out of the quarter of the field, it's had 4 starts, Professor, for 3 wins, 2 seconds. It's by Kermadec, a horse trained by Waller before. I just think it's good value, Professor. So I like it. If Autumn Angel had been running in the Oaks instead of last week's Derby, Professor, it might have probably been a different horse. But today we'll go race 8, horse 4, Scarlet Oak as the bet of the day.
All right, Gelding, it's currently showing the very good odds of $3.50 and $1.65, so it'll put some value into the parlay for us today.
Yep.
Let's parlay that horse into the AFL, Sydney to beat Geelong. Sydney playing at home. They're number 1 on the ladder, Gelding. They're number 1 for a reason. They've won 10 from 11. They're number 1 for in attack for points per game. They're number one in defence for allowing the least points per game. Very hard to go past that. Geelong, although they're third on the ladder, I can't say that I was greatly impressed by their performance against Richmond last week, although Richmond did have some improvement. But Geelong playing at GMBHA Stadium, I would have thought that they would have won by a lot more, and they looked like they were struggling at times. Compared to the Swans, Geelong allow on average per game, 21 points more per game. So, interestingly, Gelding, with that figure, the line for the bookies is 20.5.
Well, that's
so. The bookies have looked at how much more Geelong concede during the season so far to fix their line. So they believe it's going to be more than a 3-goal win to Sydney. Sydney have been playing terrific football at the SCG. I really can't see Geelong beating them today.
Yeah, Professor, they're in fine form, and I like it. I like it. I like your second leg. And the first leg, a third leg?
The third leg, let's go to the NRL, the Melbourne Storm.
Okay.
Well, they're playing at the Graveyard, Gelding, and not too many teams come out of Melbourne with a victory. So it's Melbourne Storm to beat the Newcastle Knights. Melbourne currently number one on the NRL ladder. They've won 8 from 11. What I do like, Gelding, is they've got a plus 75 points differential. Newcastle Knights, they might have won 6 games, Gelding. They're in 12th place, though, and believe you me, minus 39 points differential for a team that's won half their games. There's a bit of a skew there towards allowing in points. So the bookies have fixed the line at 12.5, so they think it's more than 2 converted tries, the difference, Gelding. So I like the Melbourne Storm to beat the Newcastle Knights. What are your thoughts, Gelding? Do you think that's a good tip?
I'll contact you on Monday on that. Yeah, I like it. No, I like it, Professor. Good value.
All right, Gelding. The win parlay is currently showing the very juicy odds of 11-2, and the place parlay is showing 5-2. So I'd take those odds anytime.
Very good odds, Professor. Let's hope we get up and hopefully get the horse league up today. So we're fine.
Very good, Gelding. All right. Well, you've got things you need to do. I've got things I need to do. So until next Saturday, and that's racing, it's good luck.
And good